Stephen is not alone. His friends, all 22 years old, say they also developed enlarged breasts and nipples so sensitive they have to wrap them in ace bandages just to play soccer.
What's up guys, Derek from replacementdates.com. Today we're going to be reacting to a old video that I actually got sent. It was it's called Store-Bought Steroid Scandal, and it kind of gets into some of the OG pro hormones back in the day and some of the effects it had on teenagers who were unknowingly or knowingly taking anabolic steroids over the counter essentially. And interestingly enough, Tren bologna sandwich is in this video. I thought it was an interesting reaction because it was, it's only 5 minutes. Thought I could give some insights and kind of dig into some of the pro hormones and whatnot and some of the side effect profile.
Steroids continue to make headlines no matter what the sport or season. CBS News correspondent Kelly Kobiea is here with an exclusive early eye investigation into the designer steroid named Tren. Kelly, good morning.
The designer steroid called Tren. It is a veterinary drug. I don't know if I would call it designer necessarily. It is indeed an anabolic steroid derived from nandrolone, which is derived from testosterone. But, when it's designer, that's typically referring to something that's like, made from, I don't know, like a novel agent introduced into commerce rather than something that already exists. So I don't know how designer it necessarily is. Like, this was previously an approved drug for use in women.
Harry, good morning. If you have a son or daughter who plays sports or just wants to look good, you'll really want to listen up. We found that hardcore anabolic steroids may be within their reach, sold at the neighborhood nutritional supplement store or with the click of a mouse.
How many of you guys think steroids are a problem? Last March, we reported about Tren,
Holy shit, that's like almost every single hand.
a dietary supplement these Louisiana high school football players and their coach told us was the next best thing to a steroid. We bought Tren over the internet and
So, what of this is actual Tren? Like we have, let's see, American Cellular Labs, Tren Extreme, Get, Genetic Edge Technologies, Tren 250, pharmaceutical grade, Extreme Tren. So when you look that up, you can actually find the old bottles, and you can see some of the muscle activator, dry lean mass. And when you look at the supplement facts panel, you can see that. Okay, so I had to dig a bit, but I actually found the supplement facts panel for the American Cellular Labs Tren Extreme. And this is, as you can see in the sub facts section, you have this 19 norandrosta 49 DN 317 dione at 30 milligrams. So what is this exactly? Is this just straight Tren? Like, no, this is a pro hormone used to act as a precursor to trenbolone in the body, at least from what I understand based on my recollection of how some of these pro hormones worked back in the day. Basically what they would do is they would have some sort of precursor agent, and that's actually still what the companies do that push some of this kind of stuff still, and then that would then be metabolized into different metabolites in the body, and one of those would be it would be a precursor moving towards just straight up trenbolone, which would then have its own pharmacologic effects irrespective of the parent compound being totally different. So the thing with this shit is you don't know how much is being absorbed. You don't know how much is being converted to Tren. You don't know what the fuck is going on really. Like, at the end of the day, this is not actual just oral Tren, but it is called Tren Extreme because it is designed in order to produce some amount of Tren after oral ingestion. And obviously it fucking worked to some extent. It's just nobody knows even what they're taking, which is obviously terrible. And obviously an ideal scenario is to know what you're taking to begin with, but obviously you don't want to be a teenager taking Tren to begin with either.
in a health store that sells supplements.
So it acts like a steroid.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is, but it's a safer one.
So it acts Notice what he said. It's a safer one. Like the guy even knows what the fuck he's talking about.
So it acts like a steroid. Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. But it's a safer one.
It's a safer one. Like this is, if you have straight up trenbolone versus like a precursor pro hormone that you have no idea what it's going to convert into. You don't know at what concentration it's going to convert, how liver toxic it's going to be. You know, like you could make an argument that normal Tren's fucking safer than this shit for all we know. You know, at least you can control exactly how much Tren you're exposing yourself to. With this shit, it's just like, you know, a loophole way of selling Tren over the counter essentially. And like it would be one thing to, if that was, you know, a legal loophole and leveraging that and like actually warning people of like what to expect from this stuff, but to be like it's safer and like you should use it, like that's obviously like where the super misleading shit comes into play here and kind of gets these kids on pro hormones that are, you know, otherwise trying to achieve a steroid like effect, either because they think it's safer and or, you know, they've been encouraged to take it by, you know, their buddy or what, get fast results and it's easy access, whatever it is. It's just crazy how this wasn't actually that long ago.
Then we sent 3 brands to be tested by renowned steroid expert Dr. Don Catlin. Instead of being harmless dietary supplements, his tests revealed Tren is an illegal anabolic steroid.
These drugs can cause you to die, frankly. They're not crack cocaine, they're not heroin, but they go to the liver and they go to the kidney and they destroy the liver and the kidney. They destroy the cells.
Okay, so it's not a 17 alpha alkylated compound as far as I know. I could be wrong on the way they're designing these pro hormones. At least currently, I believe they're using different technology, but perhaps back in the you know, pre-2010s, they were using 17 alpha alkylated orals that then, you know, converted to some metabolite concentration of trenbolone. I'm not really sure, to be honest, what the actual pharmacokinetic profile of it was, but him saying it's going to kill you, you know, like, yeah, Tren exposure over, you know, some duration of time chronically will indeed fuck you up. Is it going to kill you acutely? Like, probably not, but he's trying to exaggerate in order to get people to avoid taking it, I would assume, you know. It's obviously not an ideal thing to be ingesting. You have no idea what's converting to what and what concentrations, how liver toxic it is really. It's kind of just a ballpark guess as to what's going on. And, you know, people are just using it because it works. And it's, you know, it's fucking wild. Like actual Tren. Crazy.
Our reports about the dangers of Tren were criticized.
Man, this guy couldn't find a fucking clip. Jesus Christ.
Reports about the dangers of Tren were criticized in the online muscle building community, where Tren is widely used and extremely popular.
So they keep saying Tren like interchangeably with the name of the product because the product is named Tren, when in reality, like the people reporting don't know the difference between actual trenbolone, you know, exogenous trenbolone versus this oral compound that is a precursor pro hormone to trenbolone and is being branded as trenbolone on products, but isn't necessarily like Tren in as itself. It is not just Tren in a bottle. So a little bit misleading, you know, to kind of outline it as such. But, you know, I think you all understand that.
But they predicted the next chapter of our story. 22-year-old Stephen Kalageropoulos says he began using Tren last December.
I was just trying to get a little bit of an edge, gain a little bit of weight, and that's it.
After about 2 weeks, he experienced mood swings and his nipples started to change.
Extremely sensitive, hurts, you know, not a fun thing to have.
Stephen is not alone.
Dude, what's crazy is these guys on the soccer field all stripped down and talk about how they got gyno from fucking using Tren.
His friends, all 22 years old, say they also developed enlarged breasts and nipples so sensitive they have to wrap them in ace bandages just to play soccer.
When it's hotter and stuff, you can notice it a little better. You can see on the side right here.
Notice he said when it's hotter, you can notice them better. You know, temperature changes make a massive difference. Environmental conditions can literally make it look like you have gyno versus not.
Definitely.
My nipples started to flame, basically, and they started to get really sensitive.
Tren victim.
And that's when I went and saw my
I'm not laughing because like at him, it's just interesting how they're like labeling this shit.
doctor.
Their condition, called gynecomastia, is an enlargement of the male breast. Brett Preston and his friends are part of a class action lawsuit against American Cellular Labs, maker of the Tren Extreme they say caused pain so severe the only way to relieve it is surgery.
All that is not muscle. That's all breast tissue.
And then you could see the scar.
So this outlines the importance of doing your research again, like guys who are using Tren on its own and shutting themselves down, using a very progestogenic compound, or using a precursor to it and not even knowing what it is and how much it's converting to and what the metabolites are. You know, you can end up in a situation like this very easily. Like the majority of people I know who have developed like bad side effects and or gynecomastia are typically individuals who did like dumb cycles in their youth, and a lot of times they were involving pro-hormones.
Scars from where I had my last surgery, and then they have to go in here and take out all the tissue that's left from behind it on both sides.
Brett and his friends say they bought Tren at a supplement store chain we caught on our hidden camera.
Some of these retail stores sell it to, selling it to kids and stuff. 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who really shouldn't be taking it, you know what I mean?
Have you seen patients who have bad effects from dietary supplements?
This guy's just walking with a fucking stethoscope or whatever this thing is called hanging off his neck.
Absolutely.
In the New England Journal of Medicine this month, Harvard Medical School instructor Dr. Peter Cohen compares using supplements like Tren to playing Russian roulette.
This is not even a medication or anything that's been prescribed ever by physicians, legally, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, it actually was prescribed, and it was called Parabolin by Negma Pharmaceuticals. However, the oral preparation with a pro-hormone precursor was not. So, yeah, like actual branded like Tren through dietary supplements has not been prescribed, obviously, but actual Tren, which is what the supplement is trying to replicate, has indeed been prescribed before.
And you're giving this novel chemical clandestinely to thousands, maybe millions of people.
The Food and Drug Administration is finally beginning to crack down. In highly publicized raids in July and September, agents seized dozens of designer steroids masquerading as legal supplements, including the brand taken by Brett and his friends, American Cellular Labs Tren Extreme.
How much more money is it going to cost until somebody, takes this off the market, does something about it, or people just start opening their eyes,
Last week in this supplement store, we had no problem finding 4 more brands that this salesman claims have Tren.
I have Equitren, I have Stackable, I have Black Mass, which is down there, and then Tren Stack.
Okay, and all of those have Tren in it.
The soccer players we met said they had at least 15 friends with the same side effect from taking Tren.
Yeah, so like, do you see gynecomastia in this many people who take actual injectable Tren? Like, no, you don't. Like, this is, like, it's almost always the pro-hormones that produce, like, the most volatile side effects. I'm not saying, like, good Tren is good in any capacity, in any situation, in any context, but it was just an interesting story to me, seeing this, pro-hormone precursor essentially have a fucking story designed around it and then referring to it as like interchangeably as Tren. Anyway.
Now, we tried to reach the makers of the 3 brands we tested. The only company that listed a working number had no comment. The brand used by the soccer players we interviewed in our story, Tren Extreme, does have a number on the bottle, but when you call it, you get the FDA hotline to report adverse side effects. Harry.
So just let me get this straight. So these guys go in, they think they're buying a nutritional supplement, and instead what is actually in there, according to the doctor in the story, is actually an anabolic steroid.
Is a designer anabolic steroid, yes.
It says Tren on the front. I don't think any of them think they're getting a nutritional supplement, but yeah, you should not be allowed to sell fucking Tren, and I believe this has been off the market now for a while, which is obviously a good thing. But crazy to see that this was not that long ago. Like, how many of us were in fucking, high school and you could go buy M1T at like fucking, GNC or your local supplement store?
Yes, nowhere on the bottle does it say steroid. They usually say muscle activator or something like that.
Right. Well, buyer beware, to be sure. Thanks so much. All right, Kelly.
So again, highlighting the importance of doing your research. There are a lot of salespeople who will hype shit up, say it's side effect free, say a bunch of things in order to get especially impressionable teens, to use their stuff. You know, this is often seen in the SARMs market, especially in current days. Companies who will promote stuff as, you know, side effect free, when in reality they're, you know, can be just as suppressive as exogenous anabolic steroids, and or, you know, present elevations in liver enzymes, despite the fact that they'll tell you that they're totally liver safe. Just because they're not 17 alpha alkylated doesn't mean they're not fucking liver toxic. This is the shit that you will not hear from the people who want to sell you this stuff. And you need to know, again, highlighting the importance of doing your research and not just jumping into anything haphazardly, and why I recommend most individuals take multiple years before they decide to hop into PED use, because it's very unlikely that you will be educated enough to properly deploy this kind of stuff without having at least a couple of years of research under your belt. And ideally by then you would have, okay, like obviously you don't need 2 years to become like a reasonable enough expert to do things like moderately safely, but in general, like that's just a good time frame to actually dial in your training, your sleep hygiene, your diet model, etc., whilst you're concurrently learning about the pharmacology, endocrinology, blood tests, diagnostics, organ imaging. All that kind of shit takes a while to learn, and it could actually take a couple of years, even if you're doing it like regularly. Trying to learn and educate yourself on a regular basis, it can take years before you understand this stuff to a point where it would, you know, you could feel very comfortable going into something knowing that you have all your bases covered. So highly recommend, again, reinforcing the importance of doing your research and you know, knowing what you're ingesting. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Let me know if you used any crazy pro hormones, and if so, what was your experience like, you know, back in the day, some of the crazy shit that was floating around these supplement stores. Some very, very like side effect ridden compounds, some very, very potent, but some very side effect ridden. And some of them would actually produce effects that were almost like above and beyond like clean steroids, because of their increased like satellite interaction with, you know, like mineral corticoid receptors and shit that would cause like massive amounts of bloat and stuff that would give you enhanced leverage in the gym. And you would think you're getting like way more jacked than if you took, you know, like a clean steroid, because you just get like fucking blowed up with 20 pounds of water in a few weeks. Like, this is the kind of stuff that was sold in these pro hormones. You would find, now again, some of these compounds were actually like of the designer compounds, some are actually like pretty fucking good, to be honest. Like, I'm not saying you should ever use them, but like as far as their actual anabolic activity, you know, their application in a sports performance context, like some compounds have actually kind of prevailed and become like popular like UGL products. Like Superdrol, for example, was, you know, based upon a designer compound introduced into commerce to circumvent the fact that it was not, you know, like officially banned, I guess. And that, you know, compound still is commonly used by bodybuilders and powerlifters and performance enhancing seeking athletes and whatnot. But yeah, you know, any of those compounds, if you have any, you know, interesting stories or tidbits or, you know, anecdotes that you know, could be educational and or, you know, entertaining potentially, you know, drop them down in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like the video, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates. Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas that design myself from scratch. Recommended lab tests and diagnostics. Stay on top of your health. You do not want to be exposing yourself to this kind of stuff without pre-cycle blood work, and obviously mid-cycle peak exposure blood work and post-cycle blood work. You don't want to be doing any of this stuff, normal anabolics, like frankly, anything to do with hormonal intervention whatsoever without decently elaborate blood work as a baseline. And, you know, ideally you would follow that kind of pattern of at least having pre, intra, and post blood work and being pretty regular about it if you're going to expose yourself to this shit on a regular basis. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.